It's time for a quick save, and this week I'm revisiting one of the best games I played that I only got the bad ending for. It's Atelier Rorona from Gust. You heard me right! As of this recording, I've only reached the bad ending, and yet this was one of my favorite games I played in 2024. I'm currently replaying to rectify that embarrassing status, but in the meantime, I want to talk about this game, its history, and why, despite my lack of success, I enjoyed it so much. The Ireland games came at an interesting time for the series. What started as a simple alchemy sim on the PS1 with Atelier Marie had delved hard into the JRPG genre with the Atelier Iris games, even yielding a spin-off with Monachemia. I never got to play those games, something I regret, as they looked interesting, especially Monachemia, but that game was everywhere back in the day, along with some of the Atelier Iris games, and I always just assumed I'd pick it up eventually. But from what I can tell, the Ireland games redirected the series' focus back towards its core, the alchemy and crafting. The exploration and story were still there, but this renewed focus, along with a new art style and sensibility, seems to have driven a revival for the Atelier franchise. Atelier Rorona released for the PS3 in Japan in 2009 and in North America and Europe in 2010. Rorona was the first in the Ireland trilogy, a trilogy that, while featuring a new protagonist with each entry, still sees characters return and features the characters in a connected world where they will often revisit past locations. So what is Atelier Rorona about? The story follows Rorona Frixel, a teenage alchemist from Ireland. Rorona works for the veteran alchemist Astrid at her workshop to pay back the debt for medicine that saved the lives of her parents. Though Astrid more likely just uses the debt to keep Rorona at the workshop. When the palace threatens to close the floundering workshop so it can use the land, Rorona, in Astrid's place, is roped into a 3-year series of 3-month tasks for the palace in order to improve the workshop's reputation and prove its value and necessity. That is the base plot driving the game's story and flow. Naturally, you meet several characters. From the stern knight Stirk, who gives Rorona her palace assignments and offers his aid. Everyone says he's bad or scary, but I kinda empathize with the guy. He seems pretty nice, but just has an intense RBF, and it's kinda awkward. To Rorona's fiery tsundere rich friend Cordelia, who, despite her temper, only wants to see her friend succeed. There are shy puppeteers, cooks who fight with pans, mysterious gentlemen, musicians, ghosts, and the most badass office lady this side of the Bernardelli Insurance Agency. Oh, and Astrid at home. While these characters are often introduced throughout the main story, much of their development occurs through optional scenes in town, visual novel-like dialogues while in your party, and ultimately, their character scenes that lead to a unique arc ending for each one. I liked a lot of the cast here and found them charming, though some do feel overly reliant on tropes that anyone familiar with anime will likely recognize. I like the character designs by Mel Kishida here. The art direction overall is nice too. Ireland has some lovely fantasy environments like the ruins towering over Ireland and the quaint and cozy workshop itself. The 3D graphics are a bit stripped down, even for the time period of original release. Though, with the fact that Gust's Atelier series tends to work with a much smaller budget than JRPG contemporaries like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest, I think it's understandable. What's a little more disappointing is the way most cutscenes are handled. A character might enter the shop or approach Rorona, with both being shown in their 3D model forms. Then the game slightly blurs the 3D models, an overlay appears, and the rest of the exchange takes place, with 2D sprites in a visual novel style format. It isn't terrible. Many other JRPGs that weren't Square Enix juggernauts did the same thing around that time, but it just feels weird to start a scene with the 3D models and not just keep it going that way. The story is not a primary focus in this game, but there is enough mystery and intrigue here that it kept me interested in wanting more. In fact, I think it kept me too interested, as at times chasing plot details distracted me from my looming in-game deadlines. So I believe the thinner plot is likely by design. Still, I thought it was interesting, and as we progress through the Ireland trilogy, that's an aspect that gets stronger with each subsequent entry. The gameplay on offer is engaging and addictive, and honestly, that was my second challenge with meeting the game's deadlines. While alchemy is the focus, exploring various areas to gather materials, acquire treasure, complete quests, or fight monsters is a big part of the game too. The combat is pretty standard turn-based fare, but with a nice blend of challenge and chance in a game where combat is not the focus. The option to bring along 2 party members and the way those party members impact a battle's dynamic, such as offering to take hits for Rorona, their special abilities, or the fact that only the party's alchemist can use items, keeps battles feeling fresh. But of course, this is a game about an alchemist, so item synthesis is the star of the show. For what amounts to spending a lot of time in menus, I really enjoyed the synthesis mechanic, way more than I expected to. I often didn't even pay attention to traits or quality because I was just having so much fun making stuff. Granted, a big mistake that I eventually had to learn my lesson from. There are quality of life improvements that weren't present in the original PS3 game that were implemented in the subsequent remaster versions that also serve to make alchemy more enjoyable, such as humanoid transmutation, or allowing you to synthesize other items that are part of a bigger recipe you're working on without having to leave the menu you're currently in. What was that other thing I said? Oh, don't worry about it. Holmes says hi in between bouts of existential dread. So now we need to talk about the time limit, one of the Arlen trilogy's most infamous aspects. I would at once say it's not as bad as everyone makes it out to be, and yet it is still every bit as challenging. I know that's a bit of a contradiction, but bear with me here. You have 3 months to complete each kingdom task. These form the backbone of the game. Beyond that, you have other requirements to meet, trying to turn in more items, higher quality, different traits, more variety, etc. Stirk also has a variety of optional tasks that honestly you should complete each time, at least enough to fill up your stamp card. Many of the optional quests will happen naturally while completing your usual tasks like foraging, exploring, synthesizing, leveling up, completing palace quests, and so on. And the stamp card rewards tend to be useful as well. Each optional quest also gives you vouchers to use at the palace's front desk. This is also where you get quests from the townspeople or your friends via SD to complete. Again, you'll have the necessary items or conditions met for many of these quests just from your existing exploring, gathering, combat, and synthesis. These quests can offer you money, but also boost your shop's reputation, which is the other metric the game is looking at to determine your success. It is displayed in the top right-hand corner of your menu screen, and I honestly completely forgot about it most of my first playthrough. I'm sure that had no effect on the ending I got. Definitely no effect whatsoever. Many things you have to do take time in this game. Synthesizing takes days. Traveling to a place takes days. Resting to regain MP or HP takes days. Sometimes characters will pull you away for story or character events and eat up your days that way. Granted, as the game goes on, you are able to mitigate some of these issues by buying items from shops or traveling merchants, or using a voucher with SD, by sending Home out to gather for you, by fusing items in batches, and by leveling so synthesis takes less time. These are things I picked up over my first playthrough, or reflecting before my second. The time limit is definitely doable, but it requires you to pay attention and stay on top of things. I think my biggest mistake the first time around was that I approached this like I approach a cozy farming sim, like a Rune Factory or a Stardew Valley or a Fields of Mystria. And while that wasn't completely out of line, both games do have time mechanics and deadlines. Even if the time is just about your season and what you can grow in that time period, I think Atelier Rorona requires more focus, attention, and calculation than those types of games normally do. I remember the first time I played, just wishing there was a no time limit mode so I could goof off and try things to my heart's content. And while the game has a bonus month after you clear the game once, it isn't quite the same. So when I first played, I did pass all palace tasks, but I think my reputation was too low. Now going back into my second playthrough, I'm being more cognizant of my time and what tasks I take on, as missing a deadline for a request obtained from SD will lower your reputation. Not being as insistent on gathering versus buying my materials, synthesizing things in batches, and using other resources like Home more carefully. I'll probably update you guys in a short on how it goes once I finish. But good ending or not, I loved this game and loved the other two Arlen games too. But I wanted to be upfront about my experience, how much I enjoyed the game, and maybe some of my pitfalls, to help out the next Arlen newbie. It's a great game, and with the trilogy available individually or as a pack digitally on PS4, Switch, and Steam, it's easy for new players to experience the trilogy. We'll be talking about the other two entries in the Arlen series as well in the coming weeks. I played all three games back to back in 2024. They were actually meant to be the original first episode of Stories and Save Files, and I am revisiting them now, and having just as much fun as I did the first time. I'll also be doing a deeper dive into the trilogy as a whole in a podcast episode later this year. Thank you for loading up the Stories and Save Files quick save. Take care and synthesize something sweet.
I get tired too, you know.